Judge Faith Jenkins just said something crazy about her divorce. She hasn't said anything in months, but now she is. Her friends are still shocked by what she said about her marriage to Kenny Lattimore. Did the courtroom queen keep her own personal trial from the public? No one could have guessed how deep the truth goes. People have looked up to Judge Faith Jenkins for years, both in court and on TV. When she married R&B singer Kenny Lattimore, she even earned respect in the love world. Many people thought that their marriage was the right mix of class, wisdom, and celebrity charm. But it was clear that something was going wrong behind the slick Instagram posts and public smiles. When the court made its ruling about Judge Faith's divorce, she finally spoke out. She is 47 years old. Not only is her response intense, it's also very telling. We're going to talk about what really happened behind the scenes in this film. The teary-eyed breakdowns, the quiet warning signs, the funny moments in court, and the brave steps Judge Faith took to get her voice back. The whole story will be told, along with what Judge Faith had to say, and how fans are responding to this sudden turn in her seemingly perfect love story. We're taking it all apart, from legal papers to emotional pain. Here's something that will make you question everything you thought you knew about one of TV's most respected judges. I'll tell you how it all began, because this wasn't just a love story. It proved something. People didn't just party when they heard that gospel R&B singer Kenny Lattimore and Judge Faith Jenkins had gotten married in March 2020. They believed it. They believed in second chances, love that grew older, and the time that God chose. Faith Jenkins, who was a judge and former Miss Louisiana, and was known for having a smart mind and being able to speak clearly, had always kept her personal life private. She was the kind of woman who lived by what she said. Nominated for a Grammy, Kenny Lattimore is an artist known for his soulful singing and strong spiritual beliefs. He also came into this marriage with wounds from the past. He had a public split from singer Shantae Moore, which made a lot of people wonder if he'd ever get married again. When these two met, though, it was like fate had finally given them both something good. Their wedding, which was conducted by Devin Franklin, was beautiful, sincere, and full of hope. Pics of the bride in her beautiful white dress and the proud groom were all over Instagram. Fans had finally seen the ending to their fairy tale. In their 40s, two workers who are mature and religious find love. And for a while everything looked good. They wrote sweet anniversary messages, enjoyed professional milestones together, and talked about love, respect, and God's timing in interviews together. Judge Faith once said, "The choice of your partner every day is what marriage is all about, not just love." It seemed like a smart and hopeful message at the time. It seems like a quiet sign that not everything was as wonderful as it seemed now that we look back on it. But now comes the crazy part. Fans were crazy about how great their relationship was, but people close to the couple said they started to suspect something wasn't right. Small things, like missing events, posting less on social media, and having body language that made you feel disconnected. In an instant, the fairy tale lost its shine. Here's where the story changes in a way that can't be ignored. People continued to praise them, calling them black excellence and a power couple for the culture. But behind the scenes, something changed in a quiet way. What were the first signs? They were quiet. They kept quiet. You would have had to be very close to hear it to pick it out. It began on the internet. Judge Faith stopped sharing loving details about her marriage, like anniversary greetings, holiday photos, and motivational thoughts. Don't post any more pictures of Sunday meals or videos from behind the scenes of Kenny's shows. And for someone whose openness and honesty used to give others strength and hope, that silence said a lot. Then there was no one there. Fans began to notice that the couple, who used to show up together at award shows, red carpet events, and church events, wasn't seen together as much, would only show up at speech events. Kenny was also seen by himself at a number of business events. There wasn't any big news or shocking headlines. It was just a painfully slow fade. The big surprise was when Judge Faith's tone changed. She talked about how important it is to stay true to yourself when you're in love in one conversation, and talked about how important it was to stay connected to your own cause. The message was clear, even though she didn't say who it was. She was talking about what she knew. Also, her Instagram comments were very vague. One read, "Peace is not found in other people. It's something you make for yourself. Also, don't think that being quiet means you are weak. Often it's about staying alive." For fans who had been following for a while, these weren't just motivational words. They were calls for truth. Little red flags that are easy to see. Kenny, who is known for letting his feelings show in his songs, wasn't exactly quiet either. He talked about how hard it is for two famous people with strong personalities to stay close while being watched closely in a radio interview. He said that love isn't always enough when things get tough in life. Still no names, but the tone made it sound like there was stress. You won't believe what some close sources started to say. People in the gospel and entertainment circles said that differences in lifestyle, work speed, and even personal standards were beginning to make things tense. Reports say that Judge Faith was focused on growing her TV business and might have even tried writing and producing. Kenny, on the other hand, was trying to find a new rhythm in music by focusing on teaching and ministry. I can tell you that when two strong forces are moving in opposite directions, they will eventually hit each other. Now things start to really happen. The rumors became news after months of quiet talk about them. It was official. Judge Faith Jenkins had asked for a divorce. Fans were shocked. The same woman who used to teach millions of people about relationships and how important it is to talk to each other was now figuring out how to use the court system to help other people. But this time it was about them. Even though most of the papers were sealed off from public view, they showed enough to prove that the decision was final. Irreconcilable differences were brought up. There were no sexy or explosive claims or charges, but the language's power said a lot. The split wasn't a test run. It was over. The court filing isn't the only powerful part of this story. What happened next is just as important. Judge Faith Jenkins finally made a public statement. She is normally calm, poised, and collected. Everyone was shocked by what she said. Her words were complex, strong, and open. She wrote, "It's never easy to leave something you care deeply about, but sometimes you need to be apart to heal. I feel great about Kenny and love him, but I had to pick peace. I had to pick myself. I had to pick myself for that last line." For women who have long praised her for being strong and clear, it really got to them. Social media went crazy. A lot of people sent words of support on Twitter. Fans sent a lot of messages on Instagram telling about how they broke up with someone who wasn't good for them. It gets even more interesting after this. People who know Judge Faith well say that the choice wasn't made without much thought. It had been building up for more than a year. There were quiet therapy sessions, long tough conversations, and efforts at mediation. Reports say she did everything she would tell someone else to do in court to save the marriage behind closed doors. It wasn't enough in the end. Some even said that the mental distance between them was so great that living together was almost unbearable. It's not because of fights or chaos, but because of the silence, the lack of connection, and the loneliness that happen when two people are in the same place, but mentally very different from each other. The last court appearance then came. In contrast to famous divorces that are full of drama and attention, this one was quiet. There were no reporters or cameras there. Just two adults ending a public part of their lives in a private courtroom. The irony, on the other hand, was hard to miss. A judge who was known for helping people through tough legal and emotional situations was now being judged herself. Still, the way she dealt with it with honor made her stand out. I want you to know that this wasn't just about a marriage ending. This was about a woman in her prime, who stood strong in her truth and took back her story. But now comes the surprise that no one saw coming. After the court's ruling, Judge Faith made a big move in her career that made everyone wonder if this was her way of using her pain to do something good. What next did she do? Also, what did Kenny Lattimore say after the split was final? Stay tuned, because the next part is all about how Judge Faith used the time after her divorce to become even more successful. You know that phrase, breaking down can be the start of something great. In the case of Judge Faith, that is very true. Even after the split was finalized, she didn't go away. She didn't shut herself off. She came back with a goal and message that were louder, stronger, and less sorry than ever before. Let me tell you how she turned things around in just a few weeks. After the court ruling, Judge Faith was asked to speak at an important Atlanta event for women's empowerment. Many people thought she would cancel. It looked like the time was off. She did show up though, and she owned the stage. She didn't try to hide the big problem in her speech. She talked about how painful it is to let people down in public, how hard it is to choose peace over looks, and most importantly, how important it is for women to learn how to stand up for themselves in life, not just in court. A line from her speech got a lot of attention. For more than 10 years, I've helped other people fight for justice. It's now my turn to fight for mine. And the first step in that fight is to refuse to settle for a life that makes you less bright. That quote was shared by thousands of women. In just 48 hours, the video had more than 2 million hits on TikTok. At that moment, Judge Faith wasn't just a TV star or a lawyer. She was now a symbol of self-worth, strength, and mental clarity. That was just the start. She told everyone about her brand new project, a book called The Verdict Within, that would combine legal lessons with personal healing. It was mostly about emotional intelligence, knowing when to leave someone, and how religious women can deal with sadness while staying true to who they are. People were shocked when she announced her book on social media because it offered never-before-seen details about her personal life. She didn't do this to air dirty laundry, but to help other people avoid falling into the same emotional traps. She also started a new podcast called Sustained. On it, she has honest healing talks with ministers, therapists, celebrities, and other people from all walks of life about boundaries, breakups, and the battles people fight behind their polished smiles. What's the name? Keep Going. A clever nod to her time in court, but this time it had a greater meaning. There is no longer a need to support objections. Now you need to sustain yourself. Here's what makes this comeback different from most of the ones that stars do. Judge Faith didn't just change what she said in public. She changed what it means to be strong and sensitive at the same time. She didn't say she wasn't hurt. She didn't act like the split didn't affect her, but she also didn't let it shape who she was. Also, Kenny was polite and mostly quiet, but he did something subtle that fans didn't see coming. A short time after the court ruling, he stopped following her on Instagram and posted a mysterious quote that said, "Sometimes you let go not because you stopped caring, but because they stopped showing up." Was it a sly dig, or an honest truth? We might never find out, but the post made fans even more curious about what really happened behind closed doors. The story is different, because both of them chose grace. There were no fights online or in public. Instead, they took quiet steps and big steps forward in their own lanes. Fate wasn't done with them yet though. The most crazy part, it was recently seen that Judge Faith was having lunch with a famous person who has a lot of power and politics in the media. The internet is once again very busy. Is it for work? It's love, right? Or is this just the next step in her amazing plan to change herself? Stay with me until the end. We'll talk about the reports about her next chapter, the new opportunities that are coming her way, and why this may just be the start of a second act that no one saw coming. This is where fate took a turn I didn't expect. Judge Faith could have easily kept quiet now that the divorce was over, and the feelings were beginning to settle, worked on getting better in private and slowly came back to public life. She stepped into a new focus though, which not only changed how people saw her, but also hinted at a big new direction. Let's begin with the chatter. A few weeks after the moving keynote speech and start of the podcast, Judge Faith was seen having lunch with CNN political commentator and activist Van Jones at a fancy restaurant in Beverly Hills. The press didn't miss it, even though neither of them said for sure what happened. The appearance was enough to make social media go crazy. Was it a business meeting, the start of a romance, or just two workers getting to know each other better through shared values? Sure, no one knows for sure, but let's be honest. The time didn't seem right. As always, the internet put together pieces that hadn't been put together yet. Some people said Van had quietly backed her podcast idea, but here's the shocking part. Other people thought they were talking about a legal way for political media to work together. This wasn't a one-time thing. Judge Faith was seen at two more high-profile events in the following month. One of them was a closed-door group on women in media that was put together by Oprah's own network. The other was a meeting behind the scenes at Netflix Studios that was said to be a pitch for a new documentary about famous weddings and the real stories behind the scenes. What does this tell us? It tells us that Judge